The following video contains the actual facts of poisoning, murder, dismemberment, and cooking of Jose Santos by his wife, Rosanita Santos. Viewer discretion is advised. Brazil, famed for the Christ the Redeemer statue and one of the most heinous spousal dismemberments in world history. After administering a lethal sedative to Mr. Santos' drink, now Mrs. Santos is going to kill him.
Many couples are guaranteed a happy wedding, but not necessarily a happy wedding life. Hello, and thank you for watching Investigative Reports on MNN. Brazilian authorities in the case speculate what is not publicly known about the murder that occurred in the town of Salvador, Brazil. Salvador is 900 miles south of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Salvador is a beautiful town. It is the home to the Church of the Third Order of St. Francis. The city is noted for its cuisine, its music, and its dance, and some of the most inspiring multicolored architecture one could imagine. On the town's coast, Porto de Barro Beach has been named one of the best beaches in the world, bar none. All these were frequent sites visited by resident and retired police lieutenant Jose Santos and his wife of 28 years, Rosanita Santos. The couple publicly wed in a ceremony in the year 1977. Between them, they had 5 children, to which one an adult daughter who lived not far away but visited frequently each morning just to see her father. Now, by all accounts, there had been nothing reported wrong over that week, in which one would imagine a wife of 28 years could perpetrate such an unconscionable crime against her own husband. Extended family members will give accounts of retired police lieutenant Santos not particularly liking his wife attending a fringed black magic church which practiced that magic. Others will say that there were underlying tensions in the marriage, but nothing like what took place on that chilly 66-degree night, June the 23rd in 2005. That is when Rosanita hatched a plot so sinister that it would go down in history as one of the most brutal slayings of one spouse imaginable. At a little after dinner, 7 p.m. Brazilian Standard Time, she added a lethal concoction of a sedative to her husband's favorite alcohol drink, then presented it to him without him knowing at all. She wanted him sedated. She needed him sedated in order to execute her plot to take his life without resistance. I imagine it's easy to kill a sleeping man, a paralyzed man, much easier than it would be to kill a man that is conscious and sober. It is thought that once Rosanita was assured the sedative had rendered her husband's body incapable of defense, she journeyed quietly past the children's rooms that still stayed in the home, down the hall to the kitchen drawer. There she took out a large butcher knife and returned to his bedside. Checking his breath first and ensure he wouldn't wake, she stabbed him to death. Standing over his still yet breathing body, Miss Santos began stabbing the man she promised to love, honor, and cherish repeatedly on the couple's bed. Testimony in the trial would reveal that although he could not move, he would be able to feel each stabbing assault until he breathed his last. Firmly gripping that butcher's knife, Miss Santos stabbed him repeatedly in his chest, continued down to his abdomen, and finally to his head, until she was sure the life went out of him, until she was sure that he would no longer resist. But now she was left with the body as evidence, and a daughter, age 24, coming to visit her father soon. What would Miss Santos do with the body? And how would she explain her way out of taking his life? The life of a husband, the life of a father. Miss Santos had just poisoned and killed her husband of 28 years. And now she must make a decision about what she wants to do with his body. The couple's adult daughter will be visiting in less than a day and a half. It would be virtually impossible to drag the dead weight of a man heavier than herself into the family vehicle without notice from neighbors in the adjoining houses and courtyard. And surely the streets of Salvador would be humming with activity and vehicles the next morning. Now, as a housewife who kept a regular schedule and children to maintain, she would be hard-pressed to explain the absence of her husband and herself with blood splatters all over the room. At Miss Santos' weight and stature, she knew she couldn't drag his body far to adequately dispose of it. It was impossible. Her decision to save herself from prosecution then would be to dissect her husband's body on the mattress that they shared for years. She would dissect his body into manageable pieces, and she knew she had mere hours from a family visit or someone missing him in his absence. It was then that Miss Santos decided to chop his body into more manageable parts. Returning to the kitchen using a larger form of a knife with a serrated blade, she first separated his head from his thorax. She then removes his arms and legs from his torso. Fully covered in blood from head to toe, she now dismembered her husband's body. Miss Santos decides to further sink to the depravities that one would in such a situation. She drags his mangled torso and other body parts into the bathroom. With struggle managing his dead weight, she hoists his remaining midsection into the tub. This will be the location for further mutilation of his corpse. In the family tub where he showered just that morning, she will cut his larger parts into 100 various manageable pieces in order to cook him. That's right, you heard me. She's going to cook his parts. The tub's drain will provide a better disposable system for his blood than the now blood-strewn mattress she dissected the larger portions on. Like an expert fixmonger, she debones and fillets his flesh. Miss Santos knows full well that she could not openly bury his body without the smell of a cadaver. So cooking to codify the raw flesh becomes her best option at this point. She only takes enough body parts that will cook in the rather large oven area and leaves the rest of the tub to drain. Many hours pass as she races to cook his entire body, to include the bones, to cover her crime. After completing the deed, she allows ample time for the pieces to cool down first, and then proceeds to bag Mr. Santos into plastic garbage bags for a makeshift burial within the house. She gathers up the bags of fried body parts and hides them under a stairwell in the house, covering that area with a simple piece of particle board. Luckily for Miss Santos, her daughter did not arrive that next morning as she normally does. Now, what happens next? The sunrise of the next morning finds the killer, Mrs. Santos, scrubbing everything in order to hide any evidence of the crime. When the couple's daughter, Shazleed Neri dos Santos, arrives a day later to visit, she is greeted by her mother, a rather unusual story about what happened to her father. Her mother of 24 years tells her that her father, get this, had stabbed himself to death, and she had no choice but to dismember and hide his body parts so that she would not be charged with his death by the police. Shazleed, however, didn't believe her mother's story and went immediately to the police. When she got to the station, where she told Police Chief Nilton Jose about her suspicions that her mother had just killed her father. Soon after, the authorities came to the house and arrested Mrs. Santos. In the police district headquarters where they took her to, she told multiple stories. She first told authorities that she had arrived home and found her companion stabbed to death in their bed, and added, "After that, I decided to cut the whole body and then fry the pieces in order to prevent, get this, that bad corpse smell." And this from a wife of 28 years. Amazing. Now, even though Ms. Santos denies it, the police also suspect that she ate part of the fried body parts from Mr. Santos. The motivation for the crime was never clear to authorities. She might be attempting to collect a U.S. $34,000 life insurance policy that was taken out on him many years ago. Now, in one of her many versions of the story in court now, Ms. Santos blames the murder on two knife-wielding hooded men. It's always the men in these cases where the wife is blaming somebody else. Now, according to the story, she was approached by the men at the entrance of her home when she was coming back from the bakery. She told the court that she was dragged by the men who threatened to kill her. Now, not her spouse, right? Threatened to kill her. And then was forced to watch while they stabbed repeatedly and dismembered her husband. Now, the jurors, however, didn't believe her story at all and found her guilty on all counts. She was ordered to serve 19 years in prison for the murder of her husband and hiding of a corpse. The jury accepted all charges and evidence brought forth by the prosecution. They had no problem doing that because it didn't have any doubt that she committed the crime, said Armenia Cristina Santos with the Bahia Attorney General's office and the prosecutor in charge of the case. For the prosecutor, Rosanita, who often contradicted herself during her testimony, she said things like this, and they didn't believe, is unquestionable the culprit. The public attorney's office is fully convinced that she is the murderer and no one else, stated Santos. Now, the police report and testimonies by her own children leave no doubt that she committed this heinous crime. The trial, which had already been postponed 3 times before, lasted merely 12 hours. The sentence was pronounced that Friday night, March 23rd of 2006, by Judge Casillo Miranda, head of the Salvadorian County's first jury court. He ruled that Rosanita will have to serve her time in a woman's prison and not freedom. Her husband, who she callously killed, Jose Raimundo Soros dos Santos, age 53 at the time, was a retired police lieutenant with whom she was married for 28 years and had 5 kids. In this case, her children's testimony was crucial to convict their own mother. Story update. The sentence of 19 years in prison of housewife Rosanita Neri dos Santos, at the time 55 years of age, only lasted 36 months. Convicted of doping, stabbing, boning, and dividing into 100 parts and frying the body of her own husband, Jose Raimundo Soros dos Santos, on June 25, 2005. Rosanita died in 2007 on a Saturday after being admitted to a hospital on a Thursday night. Coincidentally, the same time and day of the week she killed her husband and fried her husband. She died a victim of multiple organ failure at the hospital Geral do Estado. For MNN Investigative Reports, this is Charles Rivers. Thank you for having us, Come back again next week and see the same program.